How would you hierarchy define this in terms of importance?
Infrastructure, list building, copywriting.
What do you focus on that others don't?
How to scale your sales motion 50% instant belief.
Monica, thank you for joining. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm doing amazing.
Monica, I want to talk about some interesting things that you're doing in your business. We'll go into copywriting, your strategies, and so on and so forth. But you pumped over 1 million emails, right? A lot more than that. If I were to ask you, I know it's a cliche question, but at scale, what's the one thing you think you've learned that others usually tend to ignore?
That there's no one unique strategy that you should keep. The most important thing that I've learned is that you should experiment with various things, various angles, various approach, various call to actions, everything that you can test in your market, go for it. Because there's no one unique rule that could apply to all businesses, to all personas.
We can say you don't have an answer, but list building, copywriting, or if I were to say tooling and infrastructure, which one, or how would you hierarchy define this in terms of importance?
Infrastructure, list building, copywriting.
Interesting. So you went the exact opposite direction is what I thought. Okay, cool. All right. Which then I guess drops me to my next question. Why do you think out of the mails that you've sent, the ones that got replies versus the ones that didn't? What makes the ones that didn't get replies not get replies? What do you think you're getting here?
Not knowing your target audience, not knowing what they are struggling with, not nailing your value proposition. Because even if the meet copy or bad copy, if you are reflecting the problems that they are facing, your mail still hits a...
And like if I were to be practical about the interview I were to run, right? What's a question you would expect me to ask them? Like, hey, what's costing you a bunch of money right now?
Mm-hmm.
What's keeping you up at night? How do you angle that discussion?
I would find the best possible questions that could uncover what would help them make more money or save their time. Because at the end, these are the only two things that people are paying before.
Okay, fair enough. You speak about an interesting concept over here, which is 1 email per segment. Can you dive a bit into that? What exactly is that? What is that approach? What are you referring to? Why is that unique?
If your TAM is not very limited, meaning that you can target various personas, I would try and focus on segmenting my list. Meaning that you cannot target with the same copy founder of a small startup as the enterprise head of growth at enterprise company. So try to segment your list as much as you can, and then find different angles, value propositions for each of the segment. So don't just blast your emails. Try various approaches for each of your personas.
I found a bunch. Let's take your example over here where we found a particular segment I want to reach out to. You got the 1 email per segment. What goes into the copywriting? Like why you use, everyone loves it. Everyone gets that copy is very important, but I know you're particularly keen on making sure that your copy takes, a lot of precedence. What do you focus on that others don't?
On hitting the pain points that they are struggling with. So you should have, around 3 seconds to grab people's attention, and it's happening in the subject line and in the email preview. Because whenever you are getting an email, you see, "Hi, Vibras, hope this email finds you well." If you did it, like you already burned your chats. So you have at around 50 up to 60 signs to get the pain points, to show that your emails matter, and it decides if they will open it or not. And also subject line is super important, because whenever people are saying how to scale your sales motion 50%, instant belief. But if it looks like an internal email, if it's grabbing your attention, if it makes you want to read more, you are already...
And so how will you handle a situation where the subject line looks spammy because the offer itself is spammy? How would you solve for that constraint?
Go with something super boring. Like, don't overcomplicate it.
Okay.
For example, sales meeting, sales Q3.
Just 2 words, that's it. Okay. Where do replies get lost? What kills replies?
Is you are too salesy or asking for too much too fast. For example, Americ. Some random person who you don't know is reaching out to you asking for 10 minutes of your time.
Yeah, fair enough.
Why would you give it to them? Like, you have 100 other things to take care of. First, you need to earn trust.
If I were to ask you, would you put is wrong offer the same as asking for too much?
For sure. This one, for sure.
Okay, right.
Because if their offer doesn't resonate, they won't even their phone away.
Yeah, I see what you
Yeah.
mean. Okay, makes sense. Now, if I were to then sort of drive that a bit further, do you have what would be the type of situations where, because I know look like there's a call to action. Do you do any campaigns where there's link clicks?
Absolutely no.
And what if your client they need to have like a mechanism where you have to get a link clicked? Would you do that in the second meal or something like that? Or you just fight with them until they tell you, no, we can't do link clicks, and they have it with another way around?
I had some cases like this, and this way I'm trying to frame the call to action question the way that people reply, we are just sending this email. Because a few months ago, there was a theory that you are allowed to put links in the follow-up, because if the email already reached the primary inbox, like, it couldn't be redirected. But then I heard some rumors, and some people explained to me that although it hit the primary inbox, it's still redirected to spam. So right now I'm avoiding things, all emails.
I want to ask you not what you do different, but perhaps what are you doing now that, because you're already established as to where you are, if you had a chance to reprint and restart again, what's the one thing that you would add or remove from your current system right now that you can't remove or add because you're too big?
I would start working with the right customers right away.
Okay.
Because cold email is not for everyone, and it's totally fine. Like, if your client value is not very high, you need to have super high volume to get the positive ROI out of cold emails, and having the right clients right away is beneficial for everyone, because you are getting credibility, you are getting testimonial, they are staying longer with you, they are not churning, so you don't have to care about new customers. So I would say identifying the right business who you can really help with cold emails.
And how do you do that identification?
You need to be aware of what type of businesses may get results with cold emails.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's an issue. I want to double tap into that. So when you say you need to know which type of customers get results, I think we're just all catching up and talking about different types of industries and niches that don't necessarily get, like, they're notorious for letting replies. But you also interestingly mentioned e-commerce. I don't know if you're still selling the e-commerce, right? Because I know that's a very tough area to crack. So the fact that you're not, kudos to you. If your client is in an industry where there's just no revenue to be made, how would you handle that situation? Do you tell the client, I can't take you on board? Do you try re-strategize? How will you work all together? What's your usual take? Do you see yourself saying no to customers because they don't fit or you think you're in a very tough industry? Or, yeah, where would you go with that?
I think it's all about setting the right expectations right away. You can test, and also cold email is a super interesting tool to test the market, because you see what resonates with people or what doesn't. So I would frame it right away that we may not get results out of it, but what I can do for you is test your market. If it's super limited, we can test various approaches, various angles. We could go super slow with the volume, so we are not burning everything with one message, but it may not work, which is also fine, because after 3-4 months, you know that cold email is not for you, and you should try to look for different
Got it.
channels.
Got it. Now, if I were to go ahead and roll this to a path where you can select your clients, you can select the audience, you can select what you're doing, you have the full control of everything. Which audience and which market would you sell in right now?
I would say that niche industries that are using emails are very interesting. For example, healthcare will get very interesting. I had some really nice results with them. Financial industries, but here it's a little bit tricky, because sometimes people also have some concerns. How did you get my email? And you need to match the tone of your emails to the industry.
Fair enough.
SaaS companies, although it's super saturated, if your offer is really good, it could be very, very interesting to target. I would focus on this three.
And if I were to now double dive into these, do you run a 2-sequence campaign, a 3-sequence campaign?
3-sequence campaign.
3-sequence campaign. Okay. If I were to ask one final question from my part, right? we're entering. I've really enjoyed this conversation because we didn't speak much about AI, but I want to drop that one little drip over there towards the end. Are you using anything that is automated right now on an intelligent perspective in your business, on an operations perspective? If you are, I'd love to know what exactly it is as a final tip for people to focus on. And if not, I'd love to understand what you're doing as to offsetting the need for the requirement for AI in your business.
So most of the operations are handled by AI, meaning that whenever we assign a new customer, a lot of things are happened automatically.
Okay.
Which also speed up things a little bit and customer pays. They are already getting an onboarding form, so everything is delivered super fast. But at the end, the final word is always up human. Meaning that even if I'm using AI in my copywriting, I still review the copy myself. I just go over it just so it doesn't sound AI. So I would think that AI is super, super helpful to handle all the repetitive stuff, but the final word should be always yours and you should have this human touch.
See, it's interesting because every single person says the same thing. It's good for the operational part of it, but the final execution has to be from a human. Lovely. Well, Monica, thank you so much for being here. I appreciated chatting with you. And yeah, I'll see you around.
Thank you so much.
Have a good day.